City of South Bend is revamping the Police Review Board. Thanks for watching Night Team. I'm Tiffany Salameh. Crisis in Ukraine means mothers are struggling to provide for their kids. Welcome back to Night Team. I'm Tiffany Salameh.
Brian, this shop is not open just yet, but just read the sign here. It says poured with a purpose, and the name Renewed Brew is supposed to symbol a new beginning for Alyssa Shepard.
Breaking news.
We begin with the breaking news here at 5. Marcus Freeman formally named the new Notre Dame head football coach. The winningest football coach in Notre Dame history, shocking the college football world with his decision to leave the Irish.
If you're looking for a specific holiday gift for someone, experts say not to wait for the better deal. If you see that product on the shelves, you're going to want to buy it right away. Without spending a dime of your own money and in as little as 3 weeks, you could be behind the wheel of a truck like this one. If you're like me, going to the grocery store is part of your weekly routine, but holiday supplies like cooking oil, turkeys, hams, carbonated drinks, even some breads and liquors may be hard to find.
It's definitely a little damp out here, but the rain has died down. Just a little bit of wind. You'll definitely want to bring the jacket if you're coming out tonight. I'm practicing my swing here. I'm not a professional, but I almost had it. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what makes this tournament special? I know KitchenAid is the sponsor, and there's just a lot of excitement here today.
Yes.
I don't want that rain.
And I had
Stay
rain out.
away.
I had rain out of that forecast last week. It looked dry, and that's been the biggest
Not
change.
anymore. Definitely a good night for some ice cream too.
For sure.
Thanks for joining us for ABC 57 News. Have a great night. A Western Michigan shopper likes her new planter, but not enough to pay 23 times the price. A woman was trying to untangle her finances after her debit card was repeatedly charged for a $68 purchase at a Meijer store in the Grand Rapids area. The hit to her bank account was $1,500. Meijer acknowledging that some customers recently have been overcharged for certain purchases. But the company says the problem rests with Chase Bank, which processes debit and credit card payments. Chase said it was working to address any duplicate transactions. Meijer customers affected by the issue can call the number on your screen. And the Federal Reserve raising interest rates again today. It's all in an effort to slow down inflation. Families are now spending nearly $350 more every month than they did for the same things last year. And with the prices rising, the Fed is raising the cost of borrowing by 3/4 of a point. That economic slowdown means the costs of credit cards, car loans, and mortgages will rise even more at a time Americans are already seeing rising prices for just about everything.
Just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center.
There's been some sort of explosion at the World Trade Center in New York City.
You're talking about a large passenger commercial jet.
Most of us remember exactly where we were and what we were doing when 2 hijacked airplanes crashed into the World Trade Center towers in New York City 20 years ago. I was sitting in a school cafeteria. 9/11 used to be a trauma shared by everyone. Now no student sitting in a high school classroom remembers that fateful day in U.S. history.
20 years now have gone by, and so I'm assuming the next couple of days you'll see a lot about it. These are the 4 routes. There was 4 planes involved in the attack.
9/11 is history, not a memory for these students at New Prairie High School.
A lot of news as they come on air in the morning. You know, they give their hellos basically. That's what you're going to see. And there's some kind of eerie, knowing what happens after, right after it. Kind of some eerie comments made, and you'll get to see that.
It is beautiful outside. Perfect September day with lots of sunshine. Oh, would you look at Washington, huh? I'm going outside today.
Other than that, it's kind of quiet around the country. We like quiet. It's quiet. It's too quiet.
It's been 20 years now, coming up on Saturday, and none of our students were alive at the time. So they really have, other than what they've heard from other people that may have been alive, they don't have that firsthand account of it. When I first started teaching, teaching high school, and it was like 2006, 2007, they lived it and they remembered it, and they could, they had their own firsthand accounts of their memories of it, to now where they don't.
20 years later, students know 9/11 was serious, but they don't have anything tangible to tie it to. Most of them have no personal connections to it. But even if students have no memory of 9/11, their lives were still largely affected by it.
Anybody heard about how life changed after 9/11? You guys aren't aware? We look at the big picture. Where have we gone as a country since then? What impact did it have? And that was easier, talking about it 15 years ago, the students could see the impact firsthand, whereas now they don't realize it because all they have known is post 9/11.
After the Twin Towers came crashing down on 9/11, it changed how we travel, and America became laser focused on the war on terror. These are the things New Prairie history teacher Mark Schellinger teaches his students about.
This is horrible.
Okay, so right here is when the second plane hits, and by now cameras were downtown. It's clear something's not right. This is not just an accident.
I feel like it was very somber. Like usually in classes, like people will talk or joke around, but in that class, in that atmosphere, it's kind of more respectful, and people are actually kind of like thinking about what happened.
We've never had something like this happen before, and haven't had anything like that happen since.
Do you find that students often view 9/11 as some kind of long gone history?
I do. Like I said, without living through it, it seems like it's another part of history. I think with it being more recent, at least it's been in the 2000s, so they can relate to that. Whereas, in history class, we talk a lot about events from 1800s, 1900s. It seems like ancient history to them. Whereas this does seem a little bit more relevant to them.
A tough day to remember in U.S. history, but an important moment for students to reflect on what's changed in our country and to never forget.
Do you struggle conveying the magnitude of what happened to our country to students?
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. If you didn't live through it, it's sometimes hard to understand that part of it, the big picture changes. And you're just really to try to convey it to them and get that message across that this changed everybody's life. Not just the people in New York, not just the people in Washington. Everybody throughout the country and really everybody throughout the world was impacted by this one day and this one event. And 20 years later, we still see the impact of those events.
A bus safety sign blows in the wind, and a memorial for Mason, Olivia, and Xavier welcomes you to the Engel family home.
She saw me screaming over my dead children and showed no mercy. Alyssa Shepard not only stole the lives of my 3 youngest children, she destroyed my family.
October 30th, 2018 is a day Brittany Engel describes as the worst day of her life. It's the day Alyssa Shepard blew past a school bus with its stop arm extended, hitting and killing her 3 children as they were crossing the road.
I mean, she literally has not accepted the role of responsibility for my children's death.
Today is another day Brittany will never forget. The day Shepard walked out of prison after serving just 2.5 years of her 4-year sentence.
I'm still kind of in shock. We knew this day was coming. We just didn't expect it to come this fast.
After completing a Bible course, Shepard was granted release 6 months early. She was sentenced to 4 years in prison in 2019. Now she's serving 3 years on house arrest, followed by another 3 years on probation. The Shepard family not ready for cameras this morning.
Sir, do you guys have anything to say?
I waited outside the home for 2 hours, hoping to talk with Shepard.
I can understand, if you're the one doing the time, you want to get out as quick as you can. On the other hand, that's really been the state's major issue with this case as far as the defendant from day one. We just haven't seen any remorse.
Fulton County Prosecutor Mike Mars explains on house arrest, Shepard is only allowed to go to and from work. She's expected to start working at Renewed Brew, a coffee shop being opened by her parents in Rochester that saw protests last year. Mars worries how the community will accept the transition.
We said from day one, it was an accident. There's no way, she woke up that morning intending to go run over kids. Everyone knows that or should know that. But her actions were reckless, and in Indiana, if it's reckless, it's criminal. And so
Brittany is focusing on the path forward, but she says the lack of empathy Shepherd shows for her dead children is something she'll always struggle with.
I'll never understand that, but like I said, I'm going to continue to focus on my children and giving them the legacy that we've already built so much. They've impacted a lot of people around the world, and you know how many children's lives we possibly saved because of them. It's kind of an honor.
Pass me the urban, I'll burn the herb. Pass me the urban, I'll burn the herb.
Pot was easy to come by there. You know, Rainbow Farm, that's what pot's about. And you could always get it there.
I just remember going out there and having a blast. A lot of people come out there from all over the United States. Everybody just couldn't believe it. It just felt so free out there and a whole different place.
Just by the simple fact, all these people show up to this because they know this is a rare spot in America to be free. You know, I mean, they know it's very rare.
Grover Thomas Crosland had a vision when he founded Rainbow Farm.
Tom and his partner, Roland or Raleigh Rom, bought the overgrown property in 1993 and turned it into a toker's utopia.
Thousands came for the annual Hemp Aid and Roach Roast, where folks could come in, camp out, and spark up a joint.
Tom's brother, Jimmy Crosland, was a regular.
Always having a good time. Indulged a little bit in the smoke they had because they always had the best stuff.
Along with his son, Boss Crosland, Tom's nephew.
I was about 16 or 17 when he started having the first festivals, and it was a blast. I mean, I was right at the right age.
Rainbow Farm attracted celebrities like Tommy Chong and Merle Haggard, coming to experience a sense of freedom that was pure Michigan.
Every movie.
Jimmy still lives down the road from the Rainbow Farm site in Vandalia. He remembers more than just the weed. Cannabis was a big part of the Rainbow Farm movement, but so was the fight to legalize it. At every event, Tom and Raleigh would set up voter registration tables, had petitions for new ballot measures, or brought literature on voting to end marijuana prohibition.
So he always had voter registration set up, and he was a strict man on getting people to vote.
It was a fight Tom was willing to die for.
People that are there to serve and protect us, to circumvent your civil liberties by searching you at any whim while you're going down the road. You know, what's that for, man?
Even though it's illegal for Tom as a convicted felon, he keeps guns and ammunition at his home on the Rainbow Farm campground. Tom Crosland tells people there's a system of tunnels under the property ready for escape in case of a government raid. He says the grounds are littered with mines and booby traps.
Jimmy still remembers the warnings from his brother when he went to the farm on day one of the standoff.
They says, well, you want to smoke a joint? I says, sure. He said, let's go in the house. So we went in the house, and the first thing he says is, watch out for all these wires going through here. I said, what are those doing? And he said, this house is rigged to blow. I said, well, we better smoke a joint outside. I said,
Once Rainbow Farm is up and going, it doesn't take long to get the attention of local law enforcement.
Starting with Hemp Aid in 1998, Rainbow Farm hosts 5 festivals over a 3-year span. Among the crowds are undercover agents and confidential informants working with police.
Then, April 21st, 2001, 17-year-old Conrad Hornrack dies in a car crash after leaving the 420 Marijuana Celebration Festival at Rainbow Farm. Less than 3 weeks later, on May 8th, Cass County prosecutor Scott Teeter, along with the Michigan Attorney General, filed for civil asset forfeiture, where the state would take ownership of Rainbow Farm and everything on it for being connected to a drug operation.
May 9th, police execute a search warrant at Tom and Raleigh's home to seize tax documents. They find at least 200 marijuana plants.
Then Michigan Attorney General Jennifer Granlome says the Rainbow Farm festivals are, quote, little more than an excuse for drug dealers to peddle their wares from a carnival booth instead of from a street corner.
Tom Crosland and Roland Rom are arrested, charged with manufacturing marijuana, maintaining a drug house, and felony possession of a firearm.
he always had a little pot. He never did have a big bunch of pot. He never did deal it.
So what the prosecutor said is they found 200 plants.
Yeah, but they're only about that high.
Raleigh's son from a previous marriage, Robert, is taken into foster care. Tom and Raleigh plead not guilty.
Jury trials are scheduled for December and January. On June 29th, a judge issues a temporary restraining order to stop festivals at Rainbow Farm until the trial.
Crosland still hosts a festival in mid-August with another planned for Labor Day weekend.
He was a citizen of the United States, and he was willing to die for his land. And that's what it came down to.
Letters between Tom Crosland and Cass County prosecutor Scott Teeter show the two on a collision course.
I've discussed this with my family, and we are all prepared to die on this land before we allow it to be stolen from us. How should we be prepared to die? Are you planning to burn us out like they did in Waco? Or will you have snipers shoot us through our windows like the Weavers at Ruby Ridge? Maybe the governor can call in the National Guard for another Kent state.
On August 17th, an undercover detective buys a ticket to a Rainbow Farm event. He says Crosland and Rahm are there smoking pot, and Crosland even offers the agent a hit.
Smoking weed violates Tom and Raleigh's bond agreement. August 31st, 2001, prosecutor Scott Teeter is expecting Tom Crosland and Raleigh Rahm in court, where he plans to ask a judge to revoke their bond and put them in jail.
Neither show up. They're at Rainbow Farm, ready to burn it to the ground.